There we go. Very good evening to you, and welcome to the reaction show on the locker room. Of course, I'm joined tonight by Regan Stevenson, and hopefully we'll be joined by Ethan Barlow as well. As soon as I mention Ethan's name, he appears. That's magic.
Yeah,
We need to do that again, guys. I was. We were 2 minutes away from cancelling the show and beginning the show at maybe about 10:30 tonight. And this Bayern Munich scoring the last kick of the ball. I couldn't believe it. Gutted for Celtic, gutted for Scottish football, guys. But you couldn't fault Celtic tonight because it was the best performance in Europe since for I don't know for how long, but they played well tonight. Celtic, even.
yeah, they were absolutely brilliant to a man. I think everyone played very well. Schmeichel made some great saves, even at the end. It's a brilliant save. It's just unfortunate the way it falls. I think the two central defenders were brilliant. I thought Jeffrey Schlupp was absolutely brilliant. Michael Olise was good in parts, but he didn't really get much success against Schlupp. And we were talking about that, the sort of battle between obviously the two Schlupp's still at Palace on loan, but the two kind of ex-teammates. I thought Alistair Johnston was immense as well. I thought the midfield three were really good, and I thought the front three were really good, and even the players that came off the bench played their part. And I think Celtic, the only other thing they could maybe have done was take their chances early on. But apart from that, they played very well, and that's sometimes what happens against the elite teams. Celtic have got a ceiling of performance, and that ceiling of performance isn't as high as Bayern Munich. So Bayern Munich get lucky, you can maybe say, on the night to get that goal, but I think Celtic were starting to tire in the later stages because they had put such a shift into the game, and I think Celtic probably would have went on to lose in maybe an extra time anyway, but it would have been nice, obviously, for Celtic to get that sort of accolade that they went to the Allianz and beat Bayern Munich in 90 minutes. So yeah, it's still stuff to be proud of for Celtic fans and Celtic as a team.
And I can't believe I'm going to say this, Reagan, but even though Bayern Munich won the game, they weren't really in the game.
Yeah, they didn't have the best chances in the game. The best chances fell to Celtic. That one from Maeda, the one that he put over the bar in the first half, then the one that Nicholas should have scored. He should have scored, but also he should have squared it as well. Celtic had the best chances in the match. The only one chance that really I felt in the game was Harry Kane at the end of the 45 minutes. That was the only big chance that they had. But apart from that, I was beginning to think your team was ahead of mine because you phoned me just as Bayern Munich scored, and I was ready to throw the phone out the window. But I was beginning to think that you knew something that I didn't. But you said you didn't, so you were just phoning me to possibly cancel the show. So
Yeah.
I, I thought overall Celtic played pretty well. To be honest, like Ethan said, I think Slip had a great game. I was really impressed with him. I felt like possibly the only person that kept giving the ball away was Rio Atati. But apart from that, everybody else was great. I did feel, guys, as soon as Kuhn went off, I did feel the worst. But I thought Yang kind of grew into the game. But yeah, it's just been a great moment for Celtic to get a win, to get the win in 90 minutes. But I tell you something, guys, a draw is still a good result away at Bayern.
Yeah. And I think I said in the pre-match sort of preview we done, I said Celtic might sort of rue the sort of that they didn't get a better result at home because based on the balance of the game, maybe they could have nicked a draw. And they definitely will rue the missed chances at the start of this game. I mean, the Kuhn one, first of all, I know it's difficult for him to kind of get out his feet, but he has to kind of stab it past Neuer, but maybe if he takes it first time, I know it's difficult, maybe he gets a better chance. Maeda's whiskers away from getting on the end of Engels' cross. and then Maeda maybe snatches at the one when he tries to catch Neuer off his line. But Celtic had some great chances, and as you said, Bayern Munich didn't have much. Harry Kane, that strike that hit the bar in the first half, even that's a bit of a difficult chance that he's doing really well to kind of execute the finish that he tried. In the second half, they had sort of chances, but Celtic kept most of their kind of key players very quiet. Jamal Musiala didn't really create much. All their wingers were kept pretty quiet by Alistair Johnston and Jeffrey Slupp. And then right at the end, they put in a brilliant ball into the box. Kasper Schmeichel makes a great save from the Goretzka shot, and they find the goal because Davies is just there. But yeah, that's what happens with the top teams. They can just kind of one moment. It wasn't even a moment of that much quality, but they get the goal, and that's what can happen. But it shows progress for Celtic in Europe. I think if they had got most of the other draws they could have done in the sort of playoff round, I know they only could have got Bayern Munich or Real Madrid, but if they could finish a wee bit higher or a wee bit lower and they might have got another team, then maybe they would have fancied their chances. And they certainly would have had a good chance with how they played. But going toe-to-toe until, 94 minutes with Bayern Munich over 180 minutes is a testament to how well Celtic played and what they've achieved this season in the competition.
Reagan, Graham makes a comment here saying, thanks for watching Graham on YouTube. It's incredibly harsh on Celtic. Not many teams go away to Munich and play well, but act like but at that level you have to take your chances, and that's what we're saying, Reagan. But obviously, going back to the press conference yesterday, Schmeichel said we need to leave everything out in the park, and to be honest, I thought Celtic done that tonight.
Oh, they definitely did do it. I thought they were great. I think that's the best Celtic away performance I've ever seen for a long time. I feel I can't remember a away performance like that, even away in Lazio. I just felt like they were totally in control tonight against a top team. I didn't feel at any point they were really under that much pressure. Of course, there's points where I felt like Bayern created a chance, but it's not like the Lazio game where like Celtic were under the pump and there was a lot of chances here or there. Celtic were in control. They weren't scrambling and off the post, off the bar, balls going everywhere. It was a mature performance. It wasn't. I don't know what you guys thought, but I thought it was really mature.
Yeah, definitely. I think Celtic had a even more aggressive approach to this one than they did in the last game. I think we spoke about with Maeda starting up front. And I think they pressed Bayern even more than they did in the first game in the first half, because Bayern in the first leg were sort of toe-tapping at about the edge of the box, not really causing Celtic any problems. But most of the game in the first half anyway, they were just passing it around the back and not really causing Celtic little to any problems. I think naturally in the last sort of maybe 15, 10 minutes, Celtic's kind of guard went lower and lower back as they became more and more tired, obviously, and they didn't really have an out ball in that sense. And you thought they're going to get to the 90 minutes, and then in extra time, you never know what can happen. But it's really, really tough on Celtic, really harsh. It's a tough one to take for Celtic fans. But I'm sure when they kind of come down after the disappointment, they'll all be very proud of what they've seen from their players.
I actually thought, guys, I don't know about you, but I actually thought the way Celtic started the game was the way Celtic finished the game at home.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, if you look at the overall picture, I would say over the kind of phase of the two matches, I feel like if you look at the last 25 minutes of this game and then the start of the match, Celtic created the best chances of the game. And this is no disrespect to Bayern, but if Bayern play anywhere near that level they played over the two legs against Celtic, they'll not be anywhere near it to go to qualify into the semi-final or the quarter-final or whatever. But
I was just about to say, Reagan, like, see what's in that game, Ethan, right? It would be hard pushed to say, like, Bayern Munich's one of the favourites to win the Champions League this season.
Yeah, not at all. Not at all. I'd agree with both of you. I think the last three performances, I know this game, the stats may show they had a lot of the ball and they created a lot. But I don't know if you kind of picked up on it, but how many times Kasper Schmeichel just put his hands out as to say, oh, I know that's going wide, I know that's going over the bar. I don't know if it's just like excellent awareness of where his goalposts are, but yeah, I don't know how he kept doing that. He just kept saying, "Oh, that's wide," and that happened a lot of the times. And then most of the saves he made a few great saves. The one-on-one with Leon Goretzka, the late header save from Leon Goretzka, and then the one from the free kick that kind of hits off the wall and then the volley comes back and deflected. I would say they were the best saves, but apart from that, most of the saves were kind of standard. And Celtic defended very well, and but Bayern didn't create enough. And against a sort of team that is a sort of elite team, or even a better level than Celtic, they'll find it difficult. Especially, I think that it's Bayer Leverkusen or Atletico Madrid next. Both those teams will give Bayern a tough game if they play like that. Leverkusen dominated them at the weekend and were unlucky not to beat them, and Atletico Madrid have been good this season and they'll pose a tough challenge as well. And I think Vincent Kompany will need to buck up his ideas if he's going to make a run in this competition towards the final, which they'll obviously want to be in, seeing as it's the home city.
I was actually like, before move on, I need to, if Alan Shearer's watching this, his name's Jota, because I don't know if any of you guys kind of thought as well. Maybe that's back to what you were saying, Ethan, earlier on about the ignorance of Scottish football. But there you go. The other thing I noticed about the commentators tonight, I'm not here to criticise the commentators. Well, I am. But to be honest, they didn't. You know how, like, when you listen to commentators, they say, yeah, well, he signed a 3-year deal for Celtic and he's a top goal scorer for Celtic. But they never even, I don't think they'd done the homework on Celtic tonight, to be honest with you, because they never went into, because you know, when you watch football, Reagan and Ethan, they always say, oh yeah, Kuhn's a top goal scorer and George Gussang, he's got a few goals this season, but they never think anything about. Sorry, I just wanted to get that off my chest.
No.
I feel better now.
No, I definitely had some sort of agreement with that. I think they kind of done the basic enough knowledge to get by. I think maybe
very basic.
Yeah, the main commentator, I think it's John Champion. I think he might have done a wee bit more research than Alan Shearer, obviously, but he never really showed it. I don't know if any of you remember the commentary from the Aston Villa Celtic game. It was Neil Lennon and Adam Summerton, I think it is. And I thought the commentary on that game was brilliant because they kind of bounced off each other, and Neil Lennon could obviously provide the kind of background knowledge of Celtic, as he's obviously keeps up with Celtic, and Summerton had done his research. He was pulling out stats that you wouldn't know unless you had went away and done your research like you should do. I think the lineup of the whole prime was a bit strange in general. Alan Shearer on commentary. He was on the commentary for the last week's game, Man City Real, and then Neil Lennon and Martin O'Neill were obviously kind of expected, but Clarence Seedorf I thought was a bit strange.
That was a bit left field.
Yeah, no, it didn't even play for Bayern Munich either, so I don't really know why that's
make up my numbers. A free jolly, they call that in the. But anyway, I feel better now that it's off my chest. I can concentrate on the game now, Reagan. But like, you know, looking at the two managers, right? Brendan Rodgers seemed very, very calm on the touchline, but Vincent Kompany was going nuts. I would like to be a fly in the dressing room even after the game. And I know they won the game, but I mean, if you missed the game, I don't know why, but what's the highlight? Celtic were the better team, and again, Celtic got a kind of tight offside goal, you would say, last week. And the same thing really happened tonight as well, nearly, Reagan. They
Aye,
took their chances.
it doesn't to the chances to win the game because Bayern won the empty much. But I think, like you said, overall, like I think Celtic can be very proud of what they did. I did find it funny. There was a point about 10 minutes to go where Vincent Company fell on his backside when he was sort of. I think see at that point with about 2 minutes to go, I think he genuinely thought Celtic could get a winner.
Yeah,
You know,
I think he
I
did
think
that.
I think that's why he was rattled because when do you ever see him fall like that? And Brendan, like you said there, Michael, Brendan Rodgers was as cool as a cucumber.
Yeah,
But but also right, but, like, I think that this stands Celtic in very good stead for next season, right? Because see people like Callum McGregor and Schmeichel, those are the players that are going to be there, like Jota, like Alistair Johnson. No, I probably don't think Rio Hatate will be there, or Nicholas will be there, because after that goal, Celtic can add maybe another 20 million on his price tag. I'm just kidding, by the way. But what I mean is like, see, like Schmeichel and McGregor, they can now go, well, we've now proven to ourselves if we stay in there, we can handle these kind of games, you know? Because
definitely.
Schmeichel,
Especially away from home, Reagan, sorry.
aye, because Schmeichel's just signed a new contract. McGregor will be there. Alistair Johnson will be there. I'm positive Vickers will be there. And see the players that you're probably unsure about, like possibly trying to get one more year out of players. Maybe that just might give them a bit of appetite and go, Celtic can hang it in Europe now. They can do it. They can, you know, because remember like a couple of years ago when Celtic got away in Europe, it would be a cricket score about how many the score would be. But they've proven under Brendan Rodgers that they can hang it in there. They can do well.
I think as well, Ethan, that going back on that point that Reagan made as well, you always got to get one or two kind of Celtic fans. It's not for the sold on Brendan Rodgers, even though he's maybe halfway there to win another treble. But do you think that all these kind of doubting Toms, you would call them, that they would have won over Rodgers with that performance tonight, and also that he got his team spot on?
Yeah, and he got his team absolutely spot on, as you said. And even the substitution, I forgot to mention it, to bring Ida on. I don't know if the Celtic goal happens if Ida's not on the pitch. The goal comes right after he does come on, and it's a brilliant, perfect time. It brings Jota off. I think Jota had just given the ball away in an attack just before he came off. Brings Ida on. Ida's kind of getting about, making himself known to the defenders, and then they get a goal off. It's brilliant work from Maeda. And then a good finish by Kuhn, who doesn't give up on it. He got the team exactly right. And I think anyone who's sort of, any Celtic fans who sort of have any doubts in Brendan Rodgers, I think if they're not convinced already that he's the man to take Celtic forward, he has been the man to take Celtic forward, then I don't know what is going to. Obviously, he did leave under some kind of, well, you would say kind of damaging circumstances the first time, but I think he's been backed enough by the Celtic board this time that he's going to stick around. And I don't think Celtic, with performing like that, you spoke about players kind of proving themselves, and players will want to sort of stay around the club.
Stay around, definitely. Because a performance like that transcends, because then that says to players, right, well, then Celtic have got a strategy as well to go to, say, to that Fitzgarden and say to him in the summer, look, we drew at Bayern Munich. That's a club that you can come and develop, and we can do things in Europe. You're not just going to be there to be like a Lincoln Redhams and make up the numbers. We're there to make progress.
And that's a thing. Even like people might be turning on the show and just say, well, Michael, Ethan, and Reagan basically going over the top, but not, because even though Celtic's out the Champions League, okay, 2 seconds from taking it to extra time, but I mean that's one of the favourites to be in the Champions League final. I've already spoke about the finances, before the game, and I'm going to mention it maybe a few times before the end of the show. So a lot of people wouldn't give Celtic a chance over the 2 games. But as I said to you guys before, before the game, a one-off game, you don't know what's going to happen. And if you think back to Parkhead last week, Celtic could have come out that game 2 each. Okay, it finished 2-1, but it was still a decent score. And then the way Celtic started the game tonight, it was a very, I think that the way you would sum that performance up, Ethan, it was a mature performance, especially away from home. You would say, well, maybe at home because like you've got home advantage and you've got 60,000 and the rest of it. But to go away to a noisy stadium, and I don't know how many times Alan Sheeran said, yes, it's a very good atmosphere. And I'm thinking, well, obviously you haven't been to Celtic Park for our Champions League, but anyway, that's another thing off my chest. I can sit back, but you know what I mean, like Celtic's out of the Champions League, but they can be proud. And if you were a Celtic fan tonight, you would be a bit disappointed, yeah. But in the same breath, it took Bayern Munich to 94 minutes to get the winning goal.
Yeah, over 2 legs, which is
Yeah.
just ridiculous to think about. You think Celtic of a few years ago, maybe even Brendan Rodgers' first spell, would just get blown away in both games. Okay, the first game, or the game at Celtic Park the last time these teams met, it was a close affair and Bayern won 2-1. But to kind of go, a knockout tie is completely different, as I mentioned on the preview. These teams like Bayern Munich, they've not got sort of players, they've not got passengers, they've not got anyone who's sort of half-asking the game. They're all kind of going to give 100%, and this game mattered to them. If they lose this game, they go out. It's no second chances, so that they can't afford to sort of turn up and underestimate Celtic. And they had to kind of, well, they weren't even at their best. They had to just get a slightly fortunate goal at the end to sort of progress. But I think, just to build on my point I was speaking about a minute ago or so, it makes Celtic a very attractive place to go. Celtic have obviously got the kind of reputation for growing players. Now they've got the sort of kind of foundations in place to sort of make good efforts in the Champions League, not just be there, make it, and then go out. They've sort of.
You look at the board policy this year as well, Ethan, right? The board policy of years past, I've had a big problem with it because they signed 11 champ once they qualified. They tried to sign players once they qualify for the Champions League, but this time they signed players like Arnie Engels before the Champions League campaign even started. They've brought in Luke. They've signed Kyogo up to a new deal. They've brought in Schmeichel. They've signed Johnson up to a new deal. So Celtic have been proactive. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, you would be very sort of pessimistic as a Celtic fan to not believe Celtic could qualify for the Champions League in that one leg qualify. You obviously don't know who they're going to get, but you would probably fancy them against most of the teams that are going to sort of be in that pool with the champions of their respective divisions. But this Bayern Munich team, I know maybe the last few games they haven't been great and whatever, but this is a Bayern Munich team that are 8 points at the top of the Bundesliga, which is a top 4 league. Any team who's at the top of one of those leagues, the German, Italian, Spanish or English league by that amount of points, isn't there by no merit. And it's not as if the Bundesliga is a walkover either, as we seen last season. And Celtic found out with Borussia Dortmund as well, who are sitting below mid-table, well, not below mid-table, mid-table and 11th. So which kind of shows how much Celtic have even grown off over this season. And I think I
Yeah,
said,
I
I
think
think
that's
I've said. Sorry, I was just gonna say. I think I've said earlier in the season this is the best Celtic team that I've seen of my sort of life. I know sort of the Henrik Larsson era was sort of in the early stages of my life, but from what I've seen from Celtic, I think this is the best Celtic team I've ever seen. And I think a kind of performance like this, a performance like both performances, sort of backs that up. And Celtic will be looking to only go forward now. I think they're way ahead financially and playing squad wise in Scotland, but they need to sort of progress and compete against other teams in Europe and not just look back behind them. And I think that's what's going to be the sort of main contributor as to whether Brendan Rodgers does stick around this time, as you said, with the board sort of backing him and giving him the money to go out and buy the players that he wants, because then he will stick around and it will be a more attractive option than a mid-table Premier League team.
But I mean, I think that's going to whet your appetite, Reagan. Like
definitely.
taking Bayern Munich to 2 seconds to score the goal. Even did you say a one-legged qualifying game? Is it?
No, sorry. Did I mean?
Okay.
I meant one round. It's one round. I
Oh,
qualified.
right, yeah.
Legs.
But, so I think that's going to whet Brendan Rodgers, because he would say, well, yeah, I'm going to get one. I'm going to get a shot about qualifying this time, and then hopefully getting into the knockout rounds as well. And you never know who you're going to get
And I
if
think
Celtic qualifies.
And I think that's something that even touched on there about the board backing the manager, because clearly the board have seen proof there that that if they back the manager, then they get their awards from that. Even, and I think if you look at the Celtic, like you said there, they've got one round of qualifying. So the ideal thing for Celtic to do now then is to back the manager going into that qualifier, then to get through one round. And then what Celtic can do is they can build on, because you look at teams like Ajax, that's who I've wanted Celtic to build themselves around for years. But build yourself around teams like Ajax, Salzburg, Copenhagen, squads like that seem to go to Champions League year on year, no matter who they sell or whatever. This needs to be a mentality thing from the club that no matter what playing squad you have, that you feel that you can make an impact in Europe. Well, of course, Brendan Rodgers feels like, of course, we're not going to win it. Of course, we'd love to, but we want to get to the last 16 or the quarterfinal, or through the match phase. You want to make an impact, and I think, okay, people can say that the draw was kind to Celtic, but I've got a different aspect to it. I don't think the draw was kind at all. You know,
But the thing is as well, though, again, right, I know what you're saying there, like, but I would have to disagree with you. I don't know if Ethan would disagree, and by the way, you can disagree, even though it's your first night on the show. Don't worry, we'll let you back. But I mean, even if it's the most difficult teams, Reagan, right, or the most easiest teams, you still got to beat them.
I get what you mean, but you mean in terms of tonight, or you talking about in general?
No, I'm talking about like next season, even for the qualifying rounds as well.
I think
Because it's not a given that Celtic's going to win the league, so Celtic's going to qualify for the Champions League. It's not a given. It's the same if Celtic goes out on Saturday against Hibs. A lot of Celtic fans will say Celtic will win the game, and that's Celtic fans, but it's not a given because it's a one-off game. I mean, Bayern Munich would say the same thing about Celtic tonight. Like, we'll wipe the floor with this wee team from Scotland, and it never happened.
Yeah, I think Celtic qualifying for the Champions League should become a given, though. With a sort, obviously not a given, but they should be going into the qualifiers sort of confident and going, "Oh, we're the big team in these qualifiers. We don't care who we're
Exactly.
going up against. We're going to beat them." Because I
Yeah.
think the teams that you're kind of talking about, that maybe Celtic player, your sort of young boys, or your Bratislavas, or your Dinamo Zagrebs. So Celtic will go into any of those matches as favourites. If they have an appropriate playing squad at the time, then there's no reason why they shouldn't be in the Champions League next season. And maybe the draw, as people have said, was quite kind to Celtic, but there's still difficult games in there, especially the away games.
I think it's. I think. Sorry to cut across you there, Ethan. But I think it's okay for people saying that after it's happened, like, because they wouldn't say that before. Like the games get took place, and I mean, I know that going back to the first game at Parkhead, just for talking sake, against who was Celtic
Bratislava,
first?
Slovan Bratislava.
Bratislava. And what was it? 4-1, 5-1.
5-1.
And a lot of people say, "Well, that's a wee team, and Celtic should be winning." But I mean, every team's in the Champions League for a reason. They're not just there just to make up the numbers.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just going to say the likes of young boys. Although I think did they finish bottom of the Champions League, or was it Bratislava?
Aye, bottom with 1 point.
And you think, oh, they're rubbish. How are they getting into the Champions League? They beat Galatasaray in the qualifier, home and away. Galatasaray are a team that's got some.
Yeah, Galatasaray are a good team.
Yeah, so they're there because they're a good team, and they beat good teams to be there. All on top of winning their domestic league, and that's what Celtic will need to do. And they'll be hoping next season they maybe get an easier draw if they're in the playoffs, or maybe even if they sort of play so well in every game, they can maybe even look to the stars of the top 8. You never know. But yeah, I think Celtic can be proud of this campaign regardless.
A couple of comments coming in just to say Celtic played well, and a good night for Scottish football as well. I think that goes back to my point about Alan Shearer earlier on about he should do his homework now in Scottish football. And Michael on YouTube saying Celtic deserved at least extra time from the game tonight. So unlucky. So thanks for watching, Michael, on YouTube as well.
Am I right in saying that Celtic still get coefficient points for that draw tonight as well?
Yeah, they will. Yeah,
they would still get money as well, because am I right in saying that every goal in the Champions League you get money?
Yeah. Every goal, every point. I think a win in the Champions League is like £1 million.
It's a bonus, yeah.
Yeah, which is why you see the sort of teams, even at the end, the sort of like, even in the league phase, you see the sort of teams that are already eliminated, your young boys and your Bratislavas sort of playing it because they're playing for pride and they're playing for big money for clubs like that. I know Leipzig, they went out and they sort of rotated their team for the last game, but I mean, sort of £1 million to the Red Bull sort of franchise isn't going to really do them much. But for the other clubs, like even Celtic, it's a profitable result if they can get a positive one.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is all about how Brendan Rodgers and the board that in the summer, because like obviously you guys will know it, you guys are there closely as well. There needs to be somebody brought in to replace Kyogo. There needs to be Willingers brought in if Nicholas is going to go. There needs to be midfielders brought in. So there's areas that need to be improved for these qualifiers, because as I've said, Brendan Rodgers will want to make an impact again this time next season.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with that.
I think as well, Ethan, like if you go in the Champions League, I mean, you don't want to buy people for just buying it, right? But especially at this level that Celtic's at now, you can't afford to stand still, especially if you're playing the likes of Bayern Munich and Juventus next season if you qualify.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what I was saying earlier. I think Celtic need to look kind of abroad. I think, as Reagan said, I think if you're looking at the other teams in Scotland and saying, oh, well, we're X amount of points ahead and we're on the track to win a treble, then in the grand scheme of things, you're not really going to grow on a European stage because there isn't much competition for Celtic and domestically at the moment. So you've got to sort of look to those other teams and the teams in Netherlands that are doing well, the teams in Belgium. I mean, Club Brugge pulled off a great result tonight. They beat Atalanta 3-1 in Bergamo to go through, which is a bit of an upset. And we've got to kind of look to teams like that who are developing young talent like Celtic possibly aren't doing enough of at the moment. But they're definitely teams that Celtic can kind of model their club off of to become a respected team in Europe. And the result tonight certainly would have done that. Just to add on the coefficient point quickly, I've seen on the SPFL Media Watch on Twitter or X, they said it earns 0.2 coefficient. So I think that's pretty decent. So that's another kind of upside of it that boosting sort of Celtic are boosting the sort of European coefficient, which will only benefit all the teams in Scotland.
I think Reagan, I made this point earlier on, but Michael, thanks for watching again on YouTube, basically says that anyone who says Celtic gets an easy draw is deluded. There's no easy draws in the Champions League, you know, and that's the same because obviously, if we look at Scottish football of the season, right, Celtic should win the league at a can't have the season, right? But it's not a God-given right that Celtic's going to win the league or the Scottish Cup or the league. Okay, you might get one odd game where Ross County beat Celtic 2-0, or you know, or Hearts beat Celtic, or St Johnstone. So you know what I'm saying? It's not a God-given right. Supporters can think different because they're Celtic fans and they're allowed to be biased, right? But you know, Celtic's got to win and earn winning the league and earn winning the cup so that they can get to the Champions League.
Definitely, aye. And Celtic have got doing very well in Scotland as well, and obviously doing well in Scotland then coincides with doing well in Europe, and hopefully over the next few years Celtic can do well in both, and they can really showcase, because like Ethan was saying there, I mean, for Club Brugge to go away to Atalanta, I mean, Club Brugge, but I thought they were great when they came in Celtic Park. So for people to say that it was an easier draw, I think it's a bit a cheap shot, because you look at Club Brugge, they were beating Manchester City for a long time, and then Man City get 2 late goals to beat them 2-1. So I think a team like Club Brugge going through the knockout stages proves that it certainly wasn't an easy draw.
Yeah, three of the sort of teams Celtic have played then in the league phase, just alone are into the last 16. Obviously Aston Villa went straight in. Dortmund aren't in yet, but they did win the first leg 3-0 in Portugal. They play Sporting tomorrow, so you'd imagine they'll see that one out. And then obviously Club Brugge beat Atalanta, which I think a lot of people maybe had Atalanta down as a dark horse to sort of go far in the competition. So it kind of shows the level that if you don't turn up on the day, sort of teams can flip a surprise, like Celtic nearly done. But obviously I think the difference in quality between Atalanta and Club Brugge is of less than Celtic and Bayern Munich, because Bayern Munich are, as we've already mentioned, one of the best teams in the world. And I've just seen a lot of Celtic fans are unhappy on X. I don't know if you've seen it, but Maeda went down in the build-up to 5 minutes goal, and I think a lot of Celtic fans were wanting a foul for that, but I think it might have been too long ago before the goal to sort of rule it out. But yeah, it's the sort of kind of fine margins that went against Celtic in this game. But you've got to give a little bit of credit to Bayern Munich. Did get the result in the end, and they advance. And you never know, we might be talking about them going against Leverkusen and Atletico Madrid, and they're playing brilliant again. But Celtic gave them some tough challenges, and the fact that the sort of limbs, as you call it here, at the end when they get that goal, shows the level that Celtic pushed them to. And yeah, it's only credit to Celtic.
Get a question in the chat, guys, from Michael on YouTube. Thanks for watching. And I think Reagan made this point before the game as well. Basically, Michael on YouTube says, I wonder if you, I would like to get your guys' take about Taylor being dropped. Do you think he's not staying at Celtic? And I think we can maybe get onto that tonight, but I think you said in the pre-show, Reagan, that the reasons why he wasn't playing tonight was because of his height.
Yeah, I just feel like his height and his physicality for this type of game, he would have been a genuine target for the wide men of Bayern. But I think Greg Taylor's been a great servant to Celtic. Like Ethan was saying earlier, I would be more than happy for Greg Taylor to stay. I think he's done really well, but I just feel Greg Taylor might think with being second choice to Tierney, because obviously Brendan Rodgers said last week that Tierney won't be coming in. So I just feel like, in answer to your question, Michael, I think that Taylor will leave, if I'm being honest, because
Yeah,
I don't think he'll want to be second choice.
Yeah, I think so. I think after tonight, if I think I said in the pre-match, I'm a sort of Taylor supporter. I think some of the criticism he gets is unfair. I think he's a good player. He's not the best player at Celtic, but he's a good player who gives a kind of consistent level of performance. But I think last week's performance was poor, and I don't see him kind of delivering the performance that Jeffrey Schlupp did tonight. I don't think Greg Taylor's kind of got that in his locker. And I think that maybe the case of Greg Taylor's maybe found his level, and it's a good, solid Champions League player. But if you're looking to go to the latter but the kind of last 16 in the playoffs, then maybe Greg Taylor isn't your sort of man to take you forward. And I thought Jeffrey Schlupp was absolutely brilliant. I thought that he kept Michael Lacey very quiet. And as Reagan mentioned in the pre-match, I think there was a lot of kind of balls switched out to Lacey, and Schlupp won the headers, maybe where Greg Taylor wouldn't. And I don't know if it's maybe, it seemed watching the game like there were two players who'd like been teammates before, and they kind of knew each other's game slightly. Obviously being teammates at Crystal Palace will play into that, but yeah, I thought Jeffrey Schlupp was brilliant, and I think he's maybe the sort of first choice left back going forward. We'll see how the rest of the season pans out and Greg Taylor's contract talk. But with Kieran Tierney coming in, I think Greg Taylor may look elsewhere for first team guaranteed football.
Michael basically come back on YouTube and he says massively underrated Taylor. Yeah, I mean, he has been a good servant to Celtic and obviously Scotland as well. And before that, Ethan at Kilmarnock as well, you know. But I think that we're not picking on him more on the show because we don't pick on anyone. But I guess he was all, when you get to that level, as you said, that it's kind of height kind of lets him down a wee bit. And sometimes he gets caught out of position as well. And you can't afford to do that, especially at that level. Maybe obviously away from home, but at home as well. Home or away, just get any level in that Champions League, you can't really afford it because the teams will punish you.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Greg Taylor, as I would still say, he's massively undervalued at Celtic. I think he's a solid player in the Scottish Premiership, where he's probably was and has been the best left back in the country for a wee while now. And I think the sort of criticism he gets from his own fans is a bit unfair and undeserved. But I think, as you mentioned, I think his sort of physical capabilities He's obviously a wee, like a little guy, and he's not the fastest either. So when you've got someone like Schlupp who's able to kind of jump and he's physically strong, and he's got that kind of turn of pace that maybe Taylor doesn't have, then it's going to be difficult. And I think Schlupp tonight was absolutely brilliant. I thought he was one of the best performers, although it was difficult to even pick a best Celtic performer because they all played so brilliantly. But yeah, I think he might be the first choice player going forward in that position.
What do you think of his performance tonight, Reagan? Because obviously, okay, I'm going to take credit for this. I basically said Schlupp would be in the team tonight, and then you and Ethan kind of came on the bandwagon. Sorry, I'll let you off for that one. But what do you think of his performance tonight? Because it was quite kind of like steady tonight.
Yeah, it was very good. I think in terms of him, I think he's come in and he's done the job very well. I think a lot of people were kind of skeptical, thinking is that kind of stopgap until the summer? But I think this guy's got a lot of quality. Ethan.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you don't play. I think he played 300 games for across his time at Leicester and Crystal Palace, who were in the Premier League. So you don't play that amount of games if you're not a good player. Obviously, Crystal Palace, they've got players. They've got good players. They play in the Premier League. They obviously done very well last season. They're kind of getting back up to speed this season, but they've got some really good players in that position at left back. And Schlupp is someone that Celtic can benefit off of, just because kind of teams in the Premier League have turned their nose up at him. Maybe like Kasper Schmeichel, where Leicester City move him on, and there he is, one of the best performers in a team travelling to Bayern Munich in the knockout rounds of the Champions League. I bet you teams like Anderlecht will be looking and going, why have we got rid of this guy? I bet you there was a few Crystal Palace fans watching going, oh, we need to get Schlupp back. He looks absolutely brilliant. But the kind of cards are in Celtic's hands now when it comes to those players, which is, you got to show kind of testament to Celtic's sort of.
And they can afford him as well now, Ethan.
Yeah, definitely. And they can lure players like Schlupp. We've got money that these teams can give you in the Premier League. You can play more football. You can play Champions League, big nights at Celtic Park. Becomes an attractive option to a player like Jeffrey Schlupp. And other players like Adam Ida last season. You think that's maybe when he signs on loan, it's maybe a bit of a stopgap just to sort of get Celtic to the end of the season, and then he plays a crucial role in helping Celtic to the double. This season, he's had his tough spells, but I think he's still had a massive part to play in Celtic's season, and I think at his age, he's only going to get better as well. So I think Celtic have kind of got that nailed down, but also in the summer, the Celtic fans will expect signings like Matthijs Christgarden, as Reagan mentioned, to kind of those exciting signings that you've not heard of, that you've heard of them, but you've not really seen them, but you've heard good things about them, and they come with a lot of sort of potential for the future. And there's usually a sort of players which bring you the most profit.
I was just going to ask you, Ethan, in terms of the journalistic thing. I mean, in terms of the journalists in Bayern, they'll be writing a few naughty headlines tonight, because they would have been expecting Bayern to win by a few goals.
Yeah, definitely. I think I spoke to a German. Well, he was actually English, but he was a German football expert before the Bayern game, and I asked what the kind of general consensus was with Vincent Kompany, and he said that they were very happy in Germany with him, Bayern Munich fans, that although he wasn't the sort of dream candidate coming off the back of being relegated with Burnley in the Premier League, that he's done a lot better job than Thomas Tuchel did last season. But I think they're in a wee bit of a sticky spell at the moment. Results haven't been too convincing, and they show no signs of sort of picking up or going for the Champions League with performances like they turned in against Celtic. We'll see, because they've obviously got top players that when they sort of find the right formula, then they can click and they can go on a run. But they're already out the German Cup. A Bundesliga isn't really good enough for Bayern Munich standards. They want to go for everything. They want to be in the latter stages going for the Champions League every time. And I think the journalists will have a lot to say about them and the sort of disappointment they've had in the last few games, although they did get the job done tonight ultimately. It was nowhere near convincing that. And yeah, there'll definitely be questions asked of Vincent Kompany.
I think as well, the guys, we spoke on the pre-show about Andy Ingles as well, and I thought he was another one. In fact, the whole team played well, but I thought Andy Ingles had got another good game. And don't forget that he played a good ball to Maeda in the first half, and that could have been a goal as well. Yeah.
I mean, I'm starting to like the impact he's having on the games. Yeah, he did play a good wee pass in the first half towards Maeda, and I did feel like those guys were growing on the game, but she had a big match like this. Those are the chances that you look back on that you need to take, because I didn't think Bayern really posed that much threat tonight. Of course, they had their chances, but I feel like for a big team, when they say they kind of peppered Celtic goals 24/7, it was pretty even match.
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I keep going back to this, Ethan, and you might be bored of me saying this already, but like if you watch the game tonight, Celtic made Bayern Munich, and maybe you would say like the second half in the first game as well, they made Bayern Munich look like an ordinary team.
Yeah, definitely. Celtic were like absolutely brilliant in the first half, especially. You've kind of sat watching the game and you kind of can't believe how well Celtic are playing on this sort of stage. And the knockout rounds of the Champions League at one of the sort of teams that have won it the most times. The record league winners in Germany. I mean, the sort of records speak for themselves, and it's not as if this is a terrible Bayern Munich team or even a bad Bayern Munich team by any stretch. This is still a well on track to win the title Bayern Munich team with world-class players in every position. And Celtic did, as you said, made them look ordinary.
I was just going to ask you guys then, does it not make you proud that watching a Scottish team go toe-to-toe with a German team? Because I wasn't watching it on Amazon Prime, but the commentator that I was listening to, he kept mentioning the fact that Germany beat Scotland in the same stadium by 5-1 at the Euros, and Musiala scored loads of goals and stuff like that. So, you know what I mean? I was just happy that a Scottish team was very competitive with a top German team.
Yeah, definitely. And it's, although the result does go Bayern Munich's way, it's a wee bit humbling, you could say, for them. I think they expect sort of to just roll Celtic over. And it didn't happen at Celtic Park, and maybe even they thought they would do it tonight, and it didn't happen again. And it took them, until almost the last kick of the ball to get through. But yeah, that's kind of, you could maybe see it happening with just how it is with these kind of teams. You think that you're kind of on the verge of greatness, and then they just snatch it away from you, and that's what they've done. But yeah, players like Musiala, he wasn't very impressive at all in either game. I thought he dealt with him brilliantly for him being meant to be one of the best players in his position, if not the best player in his position, that sort of attacking midfielder role. But he didn't have a great impact in either leg at all.
And I know when you come away from these games, even you're very disappointed as a Celtic fan, and obviously you are because Celtic's out of Europe. But as you say, that you can be proud of Celtic as well, not only tonight, but all apart from the Borussia Dortmund game, Celtic played well.
Yeah, I think, as a fan, the sort of feeling at the time is just disappointment when that goal goes in, and you're clutching at straws. Is it offside? Is that got a foul earlier on the build-up going to be called, or is it too far away. You just want to get that sort of result. Even if Celtic went on to get beat 3-1 on the night after extra time, it's still a magnificent effort to take Bayern Munich to extra time. They took Bayern Munich to injury time, but not quite extra time. But it's still very sort of proud as a Celtic fan, because Celtic domestically have dominated for quite a while now, and this is the sort of stuff that's been missing. Those sort of big sort of performances in Europe, where they sort of go toe to toe with the best. And that's what you want from a club like Celtic, and that's only going to sort of boost the reputation of Scottish football as a whole, and the sort of the coefficient as well, and hopefully other teams can sort of do it. I know Hearts disappointed in Europe this season because it looked like for a while they were going to get out of the Europa Conference League, but I think whoever has a go at it next season will have a good chance at getting out of that league phase, hopefully. And Rangers still in the Europa League this season, and I think they've got quite a decent draw for the last 16, where Rangers will fancy their chances at home, certainly. And then you look at the Europa League, the kind of other teams in it. I think without any Champions League dropouts this season, I think Rangers can really sort of, even though their domestic form has been pretty poor and close to terrible, considering the Scottish Cup result, I think in the Europa League they've been good, and they can sort of make a run at it and boost the coefficient and reputation even more. And hopefully teams like Hearts and your Aberdeens and your Hibs and maybe your Dundee Uniteds can sort of do their bit, and then the league grows. Because I seen another thing earlier, just another point. I think it was on Transfermarkt, and it was the sort of player sales, and it was for all the sort of leagues, and the Scottish League was down at 22nd, I think it was, or 23rd, which is way far down compared to the sort of coefficient of the Scottish League's a little bit higher than that. So you need to sort of demand more for your players, and by performing on a European stage where everyone can see you and everyone can respect you, that's how you demand good fees for your players.
And I know that, Reagan, that I was having a wee go at Alan Shearer. By the way, I was serious, but his name's Jota. But also, I think one of the somebody made the comment earlier on in the show. It's good for Celtic Football Club and the fans as well, but also it puts kind of like Scottish football on the map as well.
It definitely does. I mean, because if you look at, like, I don't like to use them, but if you look at Talk Sport and people like that, they like to ridicule Scottish football. Even Sky at times like to ridicule Scottish football, and that then proves to them, look, we may be on a difficult budget compared to the top 5 leagues or even the Premier League down in England, but we can still compete and bring in good players. And Scottish football is a very good level. Of course, there's things that I would love Scottish football to do better, like get a better TV deal, maybe get a package like they do the League of Ireland, where they've got a TV deal where you can buy to watch your club, something like that, or to try and bring in more revenue to the clubs. But I think overall, Scottish football is a very good product, and it was great for Celtic to prove to these people that there definitely is value in Scotland.
Yeah, no, that's the thing, Reagan. Ethan, it kind of like puts Scottish football kind of like on the map as well. And Celtic done themselves proud tonight, but also they've done Scottish football proud, because a certain guy in Talk Sport, well, I'll be interested to hear what he says tomorrow, because you can't slate Celtic. You can't slate Celtic's performance tonight.
Yeah, definitely not. And this is the best sort of one of the Europe's footballing nations Germany has to offer. This isn't a sort of mid-table team, or even like a sort of 4th place, like a Leipzig. I don't know where they are at the moment. And people were saying, oh, well, Leipzig are that they're doing rubbish in the Champions League. But this is Bayern Munich. This is the sort of 6-time winners of the Champions League. This is not something to be for people to turn their nose up at. And this is what Scotland are the best to offer, going head to head with what Germany's got best to offer. I know the leagues are very, very far away at the moment, but you've got to grow it in some way. And Scottish, there's not as if there's not enough support in this league, because Scotland has, what is it, the highest fans per capita in the world, or something like that.
Europe.
Yeah, in Europe. So the support's there. We just sort of need to be brave and be bold and sort of perform on a European stage like Celtic have done this season, like Rangers have done this season so far, and hopefully the other teams can follow and we can grow our product as a result of it.
As we're coming to the end of the show, guys, how would you sum up Celtic's Champions League campaign this season?
I think it's been really mature. I think it's been very progressive, and I think overall Celtic have shown that they can compete. It's been a competitive. That's all Celtic fans and Scottish football fans want. We want to show a product to be competitive. We want to show that we've got the brave heart, if you like, that we're able to show that we can do well on this level. But we're not here to make up the numbers, and Celtic did very well, I think. So I think overall a solid 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I would probably have a similar sort of number to that. I think Celtic done what they need to do in the league phase, with some really impressive results. Leipzig and Atalanta, especially, they obviously had the sort of the fall in Dortmund, but those sort of results can happen to anyone in Europe. And the main thing is Celtic bounce back, and Celtic have shown a lot of sort of resilience this campaign. You think Aston Villa going 2 goals behind, Bayern Munich going 2 goals behind. Not tonight. They didn't show much. Well, they obviously showed resilience, but not in terms of a scoreline way. Maybe in terms of missing the chances and keep plugging away. But yeah, Celtic maybe win easier playoff draw or still in the competition. But no shame in going out to Bayern Munich narrowly. And I would say 8 out of 10 as well. Really impressive from Celtic.
I just wanted to get your point on this, guys. Obviously, this is a different show because we are hopefully having a show in a few weeks about youth football in Scotland. But Michael makes a comment here on YouTube. Ethan and Reagan, I would be interested to hear your point on this one before we go. The Scottish Government must do much more to help Scottish football. Yeah, I would maybe argue the point, but I would maybe go as far as to say the SFA should be doing more and the clubs should be doing more as well in terms of bringing young players through the system as well. No, I'm not saying that they're going to have a better chance of winning the league, but they certainly will have a better chance because, as you know, guys, like young players don't fear anything if you put them into a first game. So, what do you think of that? Obviously, it's a different, maybe going off topic a wee bit here, but what do you think of that before we finish tonight?
I think that's why I was kind of post lockdown. I was kind of in favour of the kind of extended league, right? But if you take David Gray for example, right? David Gray, when he was sitting bottom of the league in January, he was never going to bring in youth players. So there needs to be an expansion of the league, and then so that managers feel less pressure because they're never going to bring in players when they're under pressure because they've got people like us moaning about that manager could possibly get the sack. So everybody's just trying to win matches. So I can see it from their point of view, but also there needs to be a pathway for players. But I don't think that B teaming thing was a great thing for them. So I'm glad that they're trying to move to something different now.
Ethan?
I think there's not enough kind of I don't even know how you would put it, but I feel like a lot of talent in Scotland kind of goes the wrong route. If you understand what I'm saying, I think I played in a school team with someone. This is just an example. I played in a school team with someone who was a brilliant footballer, But he got asked to go on trial with Rangers, and he sort of turned it down because even at a sort of young age, he was sort of distracted by stuff like alcohol and smoking and stuff like that. And that's the sort of another thing that sort of happens in Scotland. We're not the best country for kind of staying clear of those things, and that's a sort of thing that maybe needs to help. But that's kind of a sort of problem above football and out with football. But to speak more on the point of developing players, I think the number of players developed in Scotland just isn't good enough, really. You can see a lot of them going to other countries down the leagues in England. Italy seem to have taken a keen eye on Scotland and the Scottish football and benefited off of it for the most case. But I think I don't know, maybe like a youth league that has every team has a sort of same age bracket youth team league could maybe see a sort of thing where if players are playing well in that, then they're playing against people of a similar level and a similar age, and then they do get the kind of opportunities to get promoted to the team. But you even seen with the likes of Celtic this season, I don't know if any of you are aware of Daniel Cummings. Brilliant scoring record this season for the B team. He had like a goal a game at one point, a goal a game in the UEFA Youth League, which is like the kind of under 19s Champions League equivalent, and now he doesn't
Was it not the highest goal scorer in the whole competition? No,
you might be right. He had, I think it was 5 goals in the 6 games at one point, and he got onto the bench for Celtic a few times. He played a couple minutes at Villa Park, but surely Brendan Rodgers can shove him on for a game where Celtic are on easy street at home in the league, and that's the kind of thing where you go, you would love to sort of see a player who's kind of come up the ranks at Celtic get a chance, but yeah, I think it's difficult. But I think
that's a good.
Sorry, I was going to point, Reagan, last. I was just going to say I agree. I think the league needs an expansion as well to a sort of 16-team league would be sort of ideal, I think.
See, that's a good point you make. Sorry, Ethan. I'm just going to say that's a good point you make in terms of seeing these players are actually, you probably know more than me, Ethan, but it must be hard for them because they don't really get a chance to really show.
Yeah, no, exactly. And how discouraging is that as a Celtic youth player when you've got one of your teammates or one of the players in a few years above you who's doing pretty much everything they can really at that level. Obviously, Brendan Rodgers will know about the capabilities of him and know whether he's ready or not. But surely if he's scoring a goal a game, then at least deserves a sort of cameo, you would think. But yeah, I think across the league, it's just not really good enough. Look at Celtic, not much. Rangers, slightly better than Celtic in recent years, but still not much. Aberdeen, you think about the amount of players they've just brought in January because it's all kind of unravelled for them, although they did get their first league win in a while at the weekend. You look down the league, there's not really much. Hearts, obviously brought in James but James Wilson's kind of kicked on for them. Mackenzie Kirk at St Johnstone, Lennon Miller at Motherwell, but beyond that, there isn't really many sort of young Scottish talents coming through the teams in the top league, which is disappointing because that's how you grow your league and grow as a footballing nation.
Okay, so thanks for we can go on and on and on for that debate for ages. I mean, look at Ben Doak at Celtic went to Liverpool, bit more money, I would say. So thanks for watching tonight. We'll be back on Friday with a preview show between 5 and 7, and we'll be back on Sunday with the weekend review. Thanks to Ethan making a fine debut, and thanks to Reagan as always. You were okay tonight as well, Reagan. As thanks to everybody that's commented on the show tonight. So the European dream is over for Celtic this season, but they didn't disgrace themselves. It finished Bayern Munich 1, Celtic 1, and Celtic goes out 2-1 on aggregate, and Bayern Munich progresses to the next round. We'll see you on Friday.
Celtic in the Champions League with all the build-up and reaction on Independence Live.